Hey there, I'm Steve Morris, and I'm a results leader.
You're listening to ResultsLeader.fm. Being a thought leader is easy. Getting results is hard. This show is for the results leader who lives and dies by their results. Here is your host and Chief Results Leader, Jonathan Rivera.
You are listening to ResultsLeader.fm, and I've got a treat for you today. If you want to build an unignorable brand, culture, and business, then you are going to love today's interview with Mr. Steve Morris. This guy was a pleasure to interview, and he talked about something that I think most people are missing in the world. He talked about beauty and how beautiful things impact your business. And it sounds crazy right now, but wait till we jump into the interview and it will all make sense. Steve, welcome to the show. What is up, my brother?
Hey, Jonathan. Great to see you. Great to be here. What is up? I'm enjoying my Friday morning and excited to have this conversation with you.
Excellent. So let's dive right in. What book or books have you given most as a gift?
Oh, wow. Great question. Yeah, so there's a book called The Art of Possibility, and it's by Rosamund and Ben Zander. They're a husband and wife team. Ben is kind of famous for being the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra, and he does kind of live interactive performances with youth orchestras and things like that. Talks about how music can inspire, but the book is really about how we can see a world of possibilities beyond what our everyday life might be, and there's tons of exercises within it. So I've given that out like candy at Halloween over the years.
Love it, man. How did you hear about that book?
I don't know. I think I might have seen a video of Ben talking, and I'm going to be honest, this has got to be at least 10 years ago. So you're really testing my memory here. I'm not sure if it was referred on by somebody else or like one of my coaches or something like that, but that's the book that I give out most frequently.
Yes, sir. So let's talk about one of the topics we love to hate as entrepreneurs. I want to talk about failure, and I want to ask you, how has an apparent failure set you up for later success?
Yeah, this is such a beautiful question in the sense that, I don't know how much time do we have to go over all my failures? Honestly, it's how has an apparent failure set me up for later success? I think they all do, quite frankly. I'll give you a scenario that happened just a couple of weeks ago, because I could go back 20 years and talk about one. I could go back, last week and talk about one. So I wouldn't call it a failure, even though it would be categorized as such. There was a client situation that we were in, working with a leadership team, and I was advising kind of like in a team coaching environment. Just for context, part of the work that I do is stepping into organizational life and working with leadership teams, helping them really hone in on what their core values are, what their driving purpose is. And part of that work is rallying the team around the center, the heart and soul of the organization. And there was one particular individual of this particular team. It was a leadership team of about 8 people, might have been 9, but now it's 7, that this person I couldn't get them on the same page as the rest of the team. And it ended up that in the middle of this sort of work that we were doing, which was sort of a 3-month project, this person ended up quitting with a sense of disgust that their voice wasn't being heard or they weren't aligned. So really in the learning lesson here, so there's a variety of things, one of which is, I think the reality was this person really wasn't aligned with what the rest of the leadership team was doing. Unfortunately, it came out in what I would call soulful-oriented conversations around the leadership team. And there was some heated discussions, as that sometimes happens. That person ended up walking out of the room in one of those meetings and quit 2 days later. And the CEO couldn't talk this person back in. And, sometimes those things are blessings. And, so the thing I sort of reflect in hindsight is, what could I have done differently, either in the preparation to identify whether or not there was a misalignment with this individual, or what could I have done to help this particular person feel like they had more connection and belonging to that leadership group? Now, the other side of that, though, is people have their own choice and responsibility, right? And so I think we're all looking in this world to find out not only what is our personal genius, what is the skill sets that we can contribute to where the world needs those things. And sometimes you find yourself in a situation where it's just, you discover either overnight or through a long journey that it's just not a fit. And so I think it was just unfortunate that it had to come to a head in really soulful work and during this time. But yeah, a lot of lessons out of that.
Yeah, man, I'm sure it's a blessing for both sides to keep on moving. So let's talk about investments. And what I'd like to know is, what would you say is the most worthwhile investment you have ever made?
Ongoing education. I mean, look, I've got a master's degree, I've got multiple undergrad degrees, and that's all fine and good, but that's 25 years ago. I am a continual student of life. I feed from a lot of different troughs of information and wisdom in the spiritual world. I read tons of books in different genres, including nonfiction and fiction. I read authors that I probably wouldn't agree with, especially in political times. So during the Trump administration, I was baffled, as I think a lot of people were, and not that I want to get into politics here, but I was just baffled because I just didn't understand certain people's perspectives. And so what I did is I kind of immersed myself into reading what other people's perspectives are. And so I think drinking from the well of wisdom and trying to have as much curiosity about the world and learn as much as I possibly can about the world, that's been, I think, the biggest investment that I've made over time. And what I try and do is turn that investment into paid dividends for other people so that I can be utterly generous in sharing. Here's what I've learned, not just through the sort of academic research and things like that, but how I've applied those things into practice and how I can be generous in giving those things out to other people.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's think back. Over the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
Well, if we go back 5 years, we're talking about a very big pivot in my world. So in 2017, I think we're still in the 5-year window of that. In 2017, I merged the agency that I founded in 1994. I merged it, sold it with another company. And so, I got to tell you, if I'm being completely transparent on that, that was a cathartic life wisdom journey, because for 23 years, if you can imagine, I was the CEO of this organization. I had a reputation for doing this work. I was on many stages and covered in media and things like that. And now that I was no longer owner, CEO, leader of this particular agency, who was I then? And so really what I was trying to figure out, and I had to do this, it was almost like a vocational identity shedding, where I had to shed that previous identity and then understand who is the new person that needs to show up here in the consulting work that I do, at least from a vocational standpoint. And then how do I encompass all of who I am into the work that I'm doing right now? So the reality is what I'm doing now is much more wholehearted. I'm bringing much more of myself to the work that I'm doing. And but I'll be honest, I'm not even sure that journey's done. I'm still trying to unpeel layers, and I have near weekly discoveries of who am I now, and the deeper answers to that question. And especially as it creates connection between my work and my life and who I am from wholeheartedness, bringing what I'm now beginning to call this integral way, bringing all of myself to all of what I do, having the courage to talk about things like driving spirituality into the work environment or soulful living in the personal world. And how do we investigate what it looks like to have the heart and soul of an organization brought forward so that everyone feels not just a sense of belonging, but their whole selves are invited into that. there's been a lot of rituals. I've been meditating daily for 20 plus years and kind of have doubled down on that because I think there's so much cathartic work that's going on with me. And when I sold the agency, I went back into my painting practice. I'd been painting for 30 years. I'm trained as a painter under a protege of Mark Rothko. And so I started showing that work for the first time in 30 years and now selling in galleries, and I have collectors and things like that. So like the practice of painting is not new, but the practice of putting that painting out into the world is brand new for me. And it's a whole nother animal that I'm trying to wrestle around. And I think the other thing that's worthwhile, and this is more from a hobby curiosity standpoint, is about 5 years ago, it might've been 7 years ago, I started beekeeping. And, I live on a canyon here in San Diego, and I keep multiple hives in the backyard, kind of like on the canyon, not like in the backyard, because we don't want them buzzing around all around us. But I tend to the bees and I care for them and I learn from them, and they're just massive teachers. So we could have a whole conversation just about like what bees can teach us about life and business. That
we're going to have to save for another interview, but I dig it, man. So what are some bad recommendations you hear in your area of expertise?
Yeah, bad recommendations is take on any work that you can. I'm a strong believer in discernment and specialization and expertise. And some people will take whatever they can from a work standpoint. I also have this could be a big can of worms and it might be very provocative. I have a significant allergy to what I would consider hard sell marketing tactics. Formulas that say, if you do this, and this, then you will guarantee to sell this course or this program and things like that. I know that some of those things actually work, but what I think a lot of people forget in that particular modality, and it begins with a mindset that if you pull these triggers, you pull these levers, and you try to kind of trick people through a funnel system, that they're actually serving them. I think all business at the end of the day is human-to-human connection. And while systems and processes and good data can actually serve a customer journey, at the end of the day, you really got to care about the people and the value that you're taking care of with them. And, I see a lot of programs out there, a lot of courses out there that oversell, overpromise, and do some things that, honestly, I've got a big allergy to them. And I think my new upcoming book talks about some of the things that one could think about, or some of the ways that one can think about what we might call the game of business. And that's a marketing aspect of the game of business, that we can play it differently, which is more heart-to-heart connection, creating belonging, magnetism, connection with what we do.
Yeah, man. So this leads us perfectly into what we're all here for. We're here about results. And in your opinion, we interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a public service announcement. We're going to get right back into this show, but I wanted to ask you a question. If you have been listening to the show for any amount of time and you've picked up even one single tip, then I need your help. Get the word out. Tell people about resultsleader.fm. Share it on social media. Share it on your email. Share it anywhere. #ResultsLeaderFM. Now let's jump back into the interview. In your opinion, why do results matter?
Well, I think we'll take that on the personal level and then I'll expand it out to the organizational level, the company level, and then I think I'll talk about why it matters to the end customer. So on the personal level, I think we all want to live a life that we feel like we're contributing to something larger than us. This is why we have, and it's kind of the beauty of corporations, even be they small teams or big teams. We're doing work that we can't do on our own. And we're contributing to something larger than ourselves if we have a clear purpose and a big noble purpose or noble intent purpose for why we do what we do. And so the results matter because we want to, in some way, change the world. So a meta purpose would be make the world a better place. So that's going to be very different for my definition of it, which is make the world of my customers a better place by helping their business go to the next level, right? So I think results matter in those points because none of us want to go through academic exercises where we don't create some cause and effect and live a life that's frankly worth living. So it matters on the personal level. I think it matters on the organizational level because, you go back to what we can do as a team together is greater than what we can do on our own. And when we bond together, when we unite in a common cause, ignited with that purpose and driving to this end result to serve a set of somebody's out there, it fulfills both the individuals who are contributing to that in the team environment, and they can actually see the cause and effect of how they're changing the world. And the reason I think it matters to customers is that, whether you're a B2B business or whether you're a B2C business, I think customers, they don't want to be sold to, but they want to buy stuff that improves their lives. And so they want to make sure that whatever it is that they're buying has actual positive effect on their world. So results matter in all three of those scenarios. Now, how you might orchestrate or design what results look like or even measure those things could be very different.
You lit up there, by the way. People can't see you, but I saw it. You lit up there. I dig it.
And it's interesting. This is a beautiful question because, in my upcoming book, The Beautiful Business, and some people, they would say beauty. Well, why the hell does that matter? It seems like a frivolous thing. Well, the reality is beauty is the thing that moves people. When we're all struck by something, we feel better as human beings, and the world then becomes a better place. If a business can do that, then hell yes, all day long, that's what a business ought to be doing. And I think all businesses have that opportunity to go from simple transactions where they're taking money for people for some set of value into transcendent experiences that makes the lives of those people better places. So yeah, if you saw me light up about that, this is like, the kind of the pulpit that I'm beating, the chorus that I'm singing out there. And hopefully there's some kind of choir that's going to listen at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. So let's think back over the last 5 years. What new realization has helped you get better results for your clients?
I think it's going to sound weird, but my gut reaction on that is I think when I give myself permission to bring more of myself into what I do, it silently gives them permission to do the same thing in their business. So, we have this myth, and sometimes it's spoken and sometimes it's unspoken in the business world, which is check yourself at the door, leave your ego at home, things like that. Well, the reality is we all know this. We've all known this, even though corporations try and do this kind of thing. That's impossible. Like, people show up with all their stuff and you want to bring your best self to work. But the reality is when you bring your whole self to work and you deal with your shadow side, you deal with all your insecurities, but you also tap into your individual genius and your strength, you're then permitted to show up. And those people who do that work and show up in that particular way, they actually perform at their highest. Like, there's no question, for instance, and sorry to drop Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, because we're probably all sick of hearing about them, but there's no question that Steve Jobs was true to himself. Agree or disagree with the way he lived life, but there was no question that he brought his whole self to work, and he was incredibly demanding, and he saw a future. Elon Musk is kind of the same personality. So I think the biggest realization that I have is when I bring my whole self to the work that I do, I am either silently or maybe sometimes not so silently inviting other people, giving them permission to show up in that same way. And it actually makes the team better. It makes them as a leader better, and it makes the organization better, and it actually helps them serve their customers better.
Absolutely. Love it, man. So let's turn this inward for a second. What area of your business would you like to see better results?
So there's kind of two, maybe three sides to what I do. I'm a consultant, first and foremost. I call it brand, and then it's culture, and then it's, sort of some leadership training. Because of COVID, I think we've all kind of really been scratching our head is from a cultural or organizational development standpoint, how do I help my culture and how do I help my team? So a lot of people have put culture work, what I call culture work, on the back burner, really, which is it's a healing mechanism. It's a mechanism to help infuse more trust, more innovation, more belonging, more connection in teams. And, we've been now dealing with the technology of separation or even the physical distancing. And what I'd like to see more success in is for people to reach out, understand how can I help them orchestrate a team who might still be remote. Or a couple of the things that I'm doing right now is as they go back into more of a physical proximity into the work environment, how do I help them transition and create things like psychological safety and even physical safety, and then reintroduction into how do we take the best of COVID, the silver linings out of COVID, and infuse that into the physical environment. And I think there's some really magical, beautiful things that people can be doing out of that. And of course, it's going to depend from company to company.
He's made history. He said the best of COVID. Nobody's ever said that. Oh, man. All right. So what results are you most proud of?
Oh, wow. My kids. Look, it's, at the end of the day, my kids, my wife, we have a beautiful marriage. It's, we're together for 30 years, married this May for 28. And, the fact that we've, she didn't marry the same person, or I'm not the same person as she married, vice versa, right? So we had 3 marriages during the whole time, and luckily we've evolved together. And I count that as just a massive blessing. And the fact that my young men who are in college right now are still around me and we're still talking and in good relationship, I count that as a massive achievement. There's other stuff from the professional side. I've had a lot of success, and, I could go through kind of a checklist of some of those things. But, I think the new book that I have coming out, I'm really proud of that. I'm really hopeful it's going to make a dent in the universe. And so, that would be the thing that comes to top of mind from a vocational standpoint or business standpoint.
Okay, so let's do this. 2 things. Number 1, I want you to say the name of the book again so that I can hear it again and the listeners can hear it. And then after that, any parting thoughts for our listeners?
Yeah. So my new book that is upcoming is called The Beautiful Business. It comes out in late September, published by Conscious Capitalism Press. And it is an actionable manifesto to create an unignorable business with love at the core. And there's, we're building the website right now, but if people want to go to the-beautiful-business.com, there'll be a whole website up there to find out how to pre-order the business. There's influencers that I'm tapping into to help put the word out there in the business. I'm very fortunate to have, a lot of people that I'm connected to, other authors, speakers, notable thought leaders, things like that. And so that's the name of the book. And again, it comes out in September of this year, and I'm super excited about it. And then parting thoughts. So let's see, one thing, how can people find out more about what I do? I've got a mailing list of about 25,000 people. I send out a weekly email that is really talking about the intersection between work and life. I do talk about brand. I do talk about culture. I do talk about leadership within that. So you can go to matterco.co to find out more about that. And I want to thank you. Jonathan, for taking this time, hosting me on the show, for having this conversation, for the beautiful questions that you've asked. And I look forward to any further conversations down the road, maybe about bees, who knows?
Excellent. So that is a wrap. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. And of course, there will be links to everything in the show notes so that you can find your way back to Steve. It has been a pleasure, brother. And that is a wrap for another edition of ResultsLeader.fm. If you are out there getting results for your clients and you want to be featured on the show, go to ResultsLeader.fm now and apply to be on the show. And if you love what you're hearing, share the show, give us a rating and review, do anything to help us get the message out there. Thought leadership is easy, but results leadership is hard. We'll catch you on the next one.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.